It's time for the Brown Sports Bag on WCLU, the official local sports show here in Glasgow and Barron County. And now, alongside John Butler, here is your host, James Brown.
Well, spring is sprung. We're presented by McDonald's Glasgow. And that means, it's allergy season starting to kick off. And that also means you got things like baseball, softball, tennis, track, and all that jazz. But before we get to any of that, we got basketball to talk about. Because after last week's show, of course, Barron County went down and played in the boys' 4th Region Tournament against Clinton County. And Clinton County proved to be a pretty good team, John.
Yeah, 56-47. Barron got off to a great start. They got off the start that they wanted. I think Barron made several threes early and took like a 8-9 point lead. But Clinton, they won. I think Clinton won 30 games, something like that, 30-3 or whatever. I mean, they proved to be very, very, very formidable. Give them a lot of credit. Barron had a hard time with their size, to be honest with you. They high-lowed us to death. And in fact, after knocking down close to, I think, 10 threes in Clinton's opening round win against, I think it was Logan, maybe? They did not make a three against Barron. They were 0 for 4 against Barron, but, man, they just really, really hurt us on that, taking advantage of some matchups inside. And then they switched to that matchup zone, and that kind of gave us some trouble at times. And sometimes they mixed up their defense a little bit. But we didn't get a lot of – I didn't think we – outside the first probably 12 minutes of games, we didn't get a whole lot of quality looks after that. And give Clinton credit. I really thought we did. We had a legitimate shot of getting to the finals after knocking off Warren Central. And the way the game started, you couldn't ask for a better start.
Yeah.
And, at halftime it was like a 2-point game, but Clinton proved to be very, very formidable. Clinton played really well the next night against Bowling Green, too, as well, and we just couldn't make enough shots to get over the hump in a low-scoring game, 56-47, physical game, which is always is with Clinton, but give Clinton County the credit.
Yeah, they proved to be a good enough team because they really had Bowling Green in a pretty good spot until – kind of midway through the fourth quarter, and I think the fouls basically just piled up for both teams, actually, which was kind of – when you think about the boys' 4th Region Tournament last week, they went through almost all the games until the second game on Monday night between Bowling Green and Russell County. I think there were 40-some-odd fouls called in that game, and then in the championship game there were like 43 or 44 fouls called in the game.
Yeah, a bunch. 2 technicals were called against Bowling Green. Clinton County's second-best player fouled out with 3 seconds left in the third quarter.
Right.
Probably a mistake having him in off that rebound, but anyway – Bowling Green had a couple kids that fouled out as well. A lot of fouls. It's kind of a tough watch, to say the least. But Bowling Green made enough plays to knock off Clinton. Clinton was going for the first regional title since the 60s, I believe.
Yeah, I think 1960 or 62,
so, they had a really good team, but just not enough. And it's been interesting to see, if Barron could have knocked them off, Clinton, how they would play it against Bowling Green, because Barron played really well earlier in the year against Bowling Green, but, it's not like Clinton played bad against Bowling Green.
No, right. Yeah, I think that just the foul situation was the thing that turned out to be interesting, because Bowling Green just had more people to keep trying to put in there, at least to defend. And, Clinton really only played 6 guys, and that whenever their second-best player fouled out, I mean, even though they kind of hung around, you could see, like, the inevitability of the game, I think, at that point.
Yeah, I agree.
But going back to the Barron County situation, you look at the seniors on this Barron County team. I mean, they had a great run. Many of them played football and came out for basketball, got off to a slow start. I think they were 1-5. Really kind of caught fire as the season went along, got better shooting from outside. And, I mean, that proved to be the difference. But then also you talk about Joshua Decker inside and Gavin Nunn giving some minutes inside, and then asking undersized guys like Ben Blackburn or Waylon Clemens to get in there and mix it up and try to get rebounds. And then, Bray Bewley and Tate Spillman rebounding from the guard position, and Jackson Reese. It was, considering how the season started and how it looked like it was going to go, they had quite a turnaround during the season.
Yeah, they did. They post Christmas. Obviously had a winning record to turn everything around. Played a very difficult schedule too.
Mm-hmm.
They did not really have a bad loss per se. I don't know if they had a bad loss. I mean, their losses were to lost once to Central, then turned that around. Lost to Bowling Green, lost to Adair, 5th region champion. Lost to Green, lost to LaRue. Lost to some really good basketball teams along the way. I mean, top 20 ranked teams. Lost to Clinton twice, and Clinton proved to be really good.
Yeah.
So they're lost to Taylor County, another really good team. So their losses were not bad at all, and they did get better. I do think some of the football carryover probably helped
right.
confidence-wise and so forth. And Tate Spillman really played his best basketball late in the year too. I think that helped. I thought so would and Bewley, both players who really never came off the football field.
Yeah,
I think they kind of got their legs under them, and both Bewley and Spillman, I thought, played much, much better down the stretch, which obviously helped out a lot as well. But, it was a good job by the guys and a good performance, I think, by the coaching staff as well to hang in there with them, not to panic, make some minor adjustments along the way, and to finally kind of get things turned around.
Yeah, and meanwhile, while Barron County had 7 seniors on that team, I think that was number 7, Caverna, which ended up losing to Adair County in that semifinal of the 5th region, only had one, Russell Williams. Now, he's a 6'5" wing that they're going to miss. But, you look at that game that they lost to Adair, and then Adair beat North Hardin like a drum in the championship game. I don't know if Greene County would have been closer to Adair if they hadn't been upset by North Hardin in that semifinal game, but it looks like Caverna gave Adair the best competition in the whole of the tournament, it looked like.
Well, I mean, Caverna's got a good team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their 5 is on par, if not better, than any other team around, starting 5 and so forth. They just don't have a lot of depth and so forth. And they ran into the best team. Adair County's experience, won it last year. Got a great point guard, got a good wing, got good inside play. I mean, they got pretty much everything that you need to be a really quality high school team. And I wouldn't be surprised if Adair didn't make it to the semifinals of the state.
Right.
I think they'll beat Bowling Green. That's just my personal opinion. I mean, would I be – it's a toss-up.
Right.
And they played earlier in the year too. But I do think they more likely than not will beat Bowling Green, and I think they can make it to the semifinals. And then they'll, when you get to the semifinals, they'll probably run into a St. X, somebody like that. But I do think they got a chance. But Caverna next year, if everything holds, and this is where it gets real tricky, and it's impossible to guess in college.
Yeah.
But it's becoming very similar in high school, where it's hard to predict who's going to do. You can say everybody's back, but that don't mean anything anymore.
No.
People transferring in right and left. I got a kick out of one of the members of the Kentucky General Assembly. I don't think that bill ever got out of committee.
No, they kind of made a deal with the KHSAA and just kind of shelved the bill.
One free transfer rule,
yeah.
like it's like it's not one right now.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
you got three free transfers at the moment.
Yeah, so you can do whatever you want to. So it's a little tricky, but if everything stays the same, I mean, Caverna will have, they're a clear top 3 team in the region, in the 5th region. Clear. Without Adair loses a ton of players.
Yeah.
I mean, Green loses some really good players. North loses good players, so LaRue will be really good, but Caverna probably will be the favorite next year if everything holds.
Well, I mean, when you have Jalen Crane coming back, he will. People will circle him as the best point guard in the 5th region next year, and that's probably correct to do so out of the gate, I would say.
Be one of them for sure. I mean, point guard, I don't know a better one.
No. So, their run came to an end. It was disappointing, but they did put up the fight necessary to prove that they deserved to be there, and they were one of the better teams in the 5th region, and they may have been the 3rd best team in the 5th region. I mean, they did lose to Greene County all 3 times they played them, so Greene got upset by North Hardin in overtime, 63-60. So, I guess you could put them behind Adair. They lost to them twice, put them behind Greene. They may have been the 3rd best team in the 5th region. Mm-hmm. Anything else on the high school basketball front, John?
Now the boys state tournament starts starts Wednesday with Adair and Bowling Green.
Right.
Amazingly, starts at 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock?
I think it's 10-hour time.
10 o'clock and up in Rupp Arena. So starts off with a lot of local interest here. St. X will be the favorite. First time they haven't won this. It's one sport they haven't been great at, but they probably have. It'd be between them and Great Crossing. Probably be the two favorites. Great Crossing has the kid
Malachi Moreno,
who's probably Mr. Basketball. He's already Mr. Basketball.
Yeah.
Mr. Basketball signed with Kentucky, 7-footer. I think those two are probably the favorites. That starts on Wednesday. We'll see what happens.
All right. Well, this is Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Welcome back to the Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We're going to talk some college basketball now. I promise you we're going to get to some spring sports here before the show's over with. John, how's your bracket holding up?
It's not bad. I got 13 out of the 16 teams. It's not terrible, but it's been chalky, and I think this is a sign of the future. To be honest with you, I think the days of your major Cinderella upsets, smaller schools, I don't know you're going to see a lot of that anymore. Not when it's not just it's the combination of the transfer portal. And also now you can pay these guys whatever you want to pay.
Yeah.
And so consequently, the group that can pay them whatever they want to pay them are going to be in the major conferences. And I just think the days where you're going to see the Moorheads or whatever, I just don't think you're going to see it anymore because of the amount of money. I mean, these guys are getting. It's almost like some of the mid conferences, almost like the G League for them. They're just going to pluck them away, and I don't think that's good for the game. But they've created this, in my opinion, monster, and I still going to watch it. But they've created this monster with no real rules. NIL was originally conceived of a player at that school could make money off their name or likeness and so forth, like off autographs, or if a local business wanted them on a commercial. That's what it was designed to do. It was never designed before you got there as we're going to pay you $200,000 to come to the school. That's
right.
I mean, there's schools who've lost national championships, i.e., overpaid athletes, and that's what it's become with no rules at all.
Yeah, because part of it, I always think about the Utah cheeseburger situation where the coach got into trouble because he bought the player the cheeseburger.
Right.
And that was absurd. That was an absurd pendulum swing to punishing everything. To this other side, which is usually how this works. That's right. It's like whatever. College is setting up basically NIL foundations in order to pay athletes come play there.
That's correct.
And to your point,
sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work.
That's true.
But for the smaller schools, almost very little chance anymore. It didn't work at Kansas. They went out and they got the guy from Michigan, Hunter Dickinson.
Yeah.
He was there. Hunter Dickerson? What is it? He was there 2 years, a 7-footer, and they were not good. They had terrible team chemistry.
I think they also, if I'm not mistaken, they're the program that shelled out the most money for their men's basketball team. And that worked out for them.
So you got to spend wisely. You just can't, just randomly, because you only have so many scholarships per se.
Yeah.
Whatever that means, scholarships. We'll see. That may not even be a part of it anymore.
True. One thing about what you're talking about with the Cinderellas is a lot of times the Cinderellas were teams that had veteran players had either stayed around or
fourth year,
moved
fifth
there.
Year players, that's correct.
And so they played together. They knew how to play the game. And a lot of the bigger schools, bigger name schools, had a lot of younger players, maybe one and dones on the roster and that kind of stuff. And so you got in the tournament, and those experienced players were able to take advantage of that situation.
That's right.
Now, the more talented teams were still winning in the end for the most part, but you had a lot more shakeup in the first round. These first weekend, I think there was only one game decided by a buzzer beater.
Yeah, no 13, 14, 15, or 16 seed, I think, won.
No. We do have a 10 and a 7 left in the West.
Yeah, the 10's Arkansas.
Yeah.
Come on.
Right. Well, they weren't supposed to be there based on Cal's record in the postseason.
So I don't even count that because it's Arkansas.
Yeah, it was the seventh best team in the SEC, which obviously was as good as advertised for the most part.
It was as good as advertised. I mean, even it's hard to have legitimate criticism whether or not you like the SEC or not.
Yeah,
it's hard to get on. It's hard to really make an argument that the SEC was overrated. They're not. They had 14 teams in it, and they've got 7 left out of the 16. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them are facing each other now. Tennessee and Kentucky, for example, and so forth. So, I mean, they proved all year that they were the best conference. It looks like the Big 12 has proved to be quite good as well.
Yeah, I couldn't name who's in it, but
despite Kansas being out, well, Houston,
right. Yeah, and Texas Tech.
BYU.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about
Arizona,
BYU being in there.
Arizona. Right there's 4. Now, of course, Arizona and Arizona came from the old Pac-12, too. Yeah. BYU was in the Big 12, I think, last year.
You're probably right about that.
But they're a recent addition and so forth. But, I mean, that conference has proven to be really good, too.
Yeah. BYU, they are a team that was actually scary when I watched them play that game because I realized, Mark Pope left there, came to Kentucky, brought at least a couple of players with him, and you would think that would leave
Jackson Robinson. They brought the recruit.
Well, the recruit.
Yeah, the recruit came with it. Yeah.
But you would think that would affect them in some way, but they did not. They look better than they were when Mark Pope was there.
Well, they got new players too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pro coach that came in and brought. He's got some different. They're not the same team or whatever, but I mean, it's the power conferences is. It just is what it is, I'm okay with it. I mean, until something changes. Yeah. Whenever, I will say, and I thought about this several times, and it just made me smile. Now all of a sudden on national TV, they are talking about. It was all on ESPN last week. Rick Pitino brought it up, talking about the ACC and Big East combined. Yeah. And they had a long discussion for 2 days on ESPN, on their Sports Center, and on other shows about, that football should separate, and conferences, you should be back in your regional conference for everything but football. And not bragging, but I guess I am bragging. We said that on this air 4 years ago. Yeah. When the Big Ten and took those Pac-10 schools, and then when the ACC took the remainder and all these cross-country traveling, and we said, I think we said it before anybody else said it. I never heard it mentioned. And we brought it up that it was a disaster other than football. Yeah. Because travel and all that stuff. Finally, there's that movement going up. So we'll see how long that takes for some type of sanity. So maybe that could eventually change. The transfer portal and the money, that also needs some regulations too. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see.
You shouldn't be able to transfer free for 4 straight years.
Yeah, right.
I think that's ridiculous.
And I do think, we talked about this a little bit last week. The COVID years are over with, and so we're going to see some settling in, and it's going to be once we're kind of back to an equilibrium that predates 2020. We'll see how some of this starts to shake out.
We'll see, but somebody's got to do something.
It'll happen. There's always going to be somebody who's.
Well, every time the NCAA has at least tried to do something, they've been shot down by the courts in these antitrust actions. Yeah. So the only way to fix that is antitrust is a law passed by Congress. It'd take Congress to do something. And good luck on them doing anything that makes any sense. So we'll see.
I don't think the NCAA will be the thing. I think it'll be the dissolution of the NCAA in terms of regulating or legislating all the sports. It'll have to be something going back to the football. Football's a thing, and everything else is its own thing, and it'll work out. I think that's the way it works out.
Getting back to Kentucky, congratulations to Mark Pope.
Yeah.
Getting 2 wins. So that was big. I thought they played really well yesterday against Illinois.
Yeah.
I thought they played okay in their first round, good enough to beat Troy. But the key to Kentucky, and we've also said this over and over and over 1,000 times on this show, is their point guard, Butler.
Yeah.
If he's playing and he's not healthy, but he don't have to be healthy, he's a great defensive player.
Yeah.
As a point guard, and well, you can't really. It's hard to lose your point guard and then your backup point guard and then your other backup point guard. So I thought he was great yesterday. Kobe Brea was great, just a tremendous shooter. The Williams kid on the inside, I think he's an NBA player. He's 6'11", close to 7 foot, left-handed, can block shots, he can pass. He's got a unique skill set. I mean, I thought Kentucky played really, really well. And, they've got a rematch for the third time with Tennessee. I wouldn't be that excited if I was Kentucky. They've beaten Tennessee twice.
Yeah.
It's not that it's hard to beat a good team 3 times. It is. It's just it's your odds of doing it 3 times doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think it's going to be a hard game, but at least they're in the final 16 and against a team that, listen, Tennessee is a really good team, but they're not known offensively in the past to be great.
Yeah.
But that will be a tough game for them. And then, of course, the other thing I'd mention is Arkansas and Cal getting by St. John's, which I thought St. John's was played probably their worst game of the year shooting-wise. It was atrocious.
Their defense wasn't great either. I mean, you go back and watch some of that game, and you see where they got lost on defense, gave up what I thought were 2 easy looks for Arkansas, especially inside or on their rotation on defense. So it just wasn't that they didn't shoot the ball well. They gave up too many, I thought, easy baskets to Arkansas that put them in a
probably,
hole.
But when you're 2 for 23.
Yeah. I mean, you could still win the game. But
yeah, I mean, if you make some threes, you're going to have some lapses occasionally. And sometimes your offense is affected, your defense is affected by your lack of offense.
Oh, yeah.
It's a human nature.
I guess that was the case. To some degree, it looked like they were frustrated, out of sorts.
Well, I was frustrated watching them. They in the first half, legitimately. You see that in women's basketball where they miss a lot of layups sometimes because of.
Yeah.
It's not like in the men's game when you're missing. I mean, you're up by the rim oftentimes. Now you may have shot blockers too, but in women's game, that's not the same shot sometimes. But I've never seen a team miss as many 1-footers and 2-footers as they did, and it just ultimately was one of the reasons why they lost to an Arkansas team. And I will say with Cal, he's a better coach when he's the underdog. When
he has no pressure on
no
him.
pressure. The team has no. His rotation is 7 deep only because he didn't have it. He's got some injuries, and they just play. And he just coaches better. He's not on them on every possession, every play. He's not jerking them in and out of the lineup like he did so often in Kentucky.
Yeah.
So when he's the underdog, he's a heck of a lot better coach.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to his UMass days, really.
Yeah, that's exactly
Or when he
right.
started out in Memphis. He was better at Memphis when they started than when they – I mean, he got the talent in there, but then you started seeing some disaster
That's correct. And his team played well. They knocked off St. John's. So it's very, very chalky final 16 for the most part. I guess the biggest upset is the number 2 seed, St. John's, being out.
Yeah.
And that's other than that, all the 1s are in and all the 2s are in except for St. John's.
Yeah. Real quick on the women's tournament, the thing that I noticed was the 4s have beaten the 5s, and there's 1 4-5 game left today.
Well,
the 5s have beaten the 4s. I said
they
that
started
backward.
today at 11 o'clock. They're playing all day today, which is a little weird. I've said all along the women, I don't know why they go head-to-head against the men. They ought to push the tournament back a week or past a week, or they ought to play Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah.
When they have that time frame or whatever. Kentucky lost a heartbreak yesterday to Kansas State. Hate to see that.
It's a heck of a game, too.
It was a great game. I mean, it's a great game. Went back and forth, a lot of shot making. So I hate to see that. And but no real surprises. I do think in the women's game this year, there's not an overwhelming favorite like there's been in the past. South Carolina has been an overwhelming favorite the last couple of years, and UConn for all those years too. So I think there's 4 or 5 teams that could possibly win it, which is a little different than in the past.
Also seems like there's a good spread of talent in the women's game at the moment. Not quite so collected. The top-end teams are still the top-end teams, but it's like there are 7 or 8 different just outstanding players, some on different teams.
One of the differences between the men and women is that if you got they still use dominant post players in the women's game.
Yeah.
On the block.
Right.
Where in the men's game, you don't see a lot of dominant post players. Women, generally your best teams have that 6'5", 6'6" kid, and they are a handful to guard and so forth.
Yeah. So do you still have a favorite in that?
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I think UCLA is a little suspect. I'm not 100% sold on USC. UConn, Texas, and South Carolina, I think, would be one of those 3.
Yeah. All right. Anything else about the college basketball you can think of, John?
No, despite my remarks about transfers, NIL, and so forth, I still enjoy the tournament. Again, I go back to what I said 1,000 times. If you don't like if you enjoy the sausage, don't watch it be made.
Yeah, right.
But I still think whether it comes to politics or it comes to sports or whatever, there has to be some adults in the room that make good decisions.
Yeah.
Because the vast majority of people don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care.
No.
They just, if you got a job and you go to work and you've got blah, 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 then you just want to watch the game.
Yeah.
But I still think the people that are involved need to take a little bit better responsibility.
Well, and they don't care until they wake up one day and they realize it's broken and that they don't get to watch the games because of various reasons.
That's
or
correct.
It's just not – it's all set. There's no intrigue about it.
And that's the true – no matter what, sports, politics, or whatever. Until it hits you in the mouth, a lot of people, they just don't care about the minutia or whatever you want to call it. And but it does need, and that's from the KHSA to the NCAA to whatever. But I do think there needs to be adults that making good decisions rather than what's going on right now.
With an eye toward protecting what's valuable, which in this case is the NCAA tournament or something of that nature.
Or just students.
Yeah, or students. Yeah, there's that too.
Just student athlete or whatever. Just students, whether, it's, even though it's student power to transfer 4 or 5 times and play, that's not necessarily always – I've said it 1,000 times. I think I'm right. You can transfer wherever you want to. It doesn't mean you can immediately be eligible.
Right. Yeah.
Even in high school. You can – there's no law says you can't go to another school. But sometimes you shouldn't be able to play after your 3rd or 4th transfer.
Yeah,
you sit out a year.
Yeah, there's a price to pay for decisions sometimes.
That's correct.
All right, this is Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Welcome back to the Brown Sports Bag. This is James Brown. We're presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We are here every Monday at 4 o'clock, myself and John Butler. It's spring sports. We've been teased at 2 sections. We're going to get here now. Barron County and Glasgow's baseball teams got in a lot of games last week. Especially considering the midweek weather. I didn't figure
9 games.
Yeah, between the both of them, yeah. Barron played 5. Glasgow played 4. Both of them opened with tough schedules to the season, John.
I swear to goodness, that's about the Barron and Glasgow. That's about as tough of an opening that I can ever remember.
Yeah.
We'll start with Barron. Barron baseball. I thought they had a good week. They went 2-3, and you go, well, that doesn't sound good with the teams they played. This schedule was set by Coach Alfonso, and of course he stepped away. But Coach Alfonso, since the day he got here, he's been there 3 years. He scheduled the best teams that you could possibly face.
Yeah. Well, and he knew he should have a good team this year.
He did it when he didn't.
Yeah, well, that's true.
When these kids were freshmen, he scheduled,
That's true.
He just wanted to play good competition. So they opened up with Region 5 favorite Taylor County, and he lost 8-2. And then the second game, they went to Bowling Green. And Bowling Green is obviously one of the perennial powers in the 4th, and Barron got a good win, 9-6, and then came back against a Russell County who's won the region 2 out of the last 3 years, maybe.
Yeah, they're defending champs.
Defending champions, got to the state runner-up a couple years ago and defeated Russell County 4-2.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, outstanding. And then they faced probably Region 2 favorite Christian County, lost 6-2, and then Owensboro 5-3, and one of the best teams in the third region. So they were highly competitive in all 5 of their games.
Yeah.
Played just a whirlwind schedule. I mean, you don't see any bad teams on there at all. I'll just say that. I'm not even going to mention some of the perennial bad teams, but you don't see any of those on there. And to go 2-3 with that, they could have easily gone 0-5. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
If they'd gone 0-5 against that 5, I wouldn't say much either. But good start. Jackson Reese ended up. There's only one kid hitting over 300, and you're just not going to hit great your first week against that schedule. And he was 6 out of 12.
Yeah.
Hyde Sutton next was 296 with 6 RBIs. But it's also tough on your pitching because your pitchers aren't really ready to pitch 7 innings that early.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to go through a lot of pitchers in 5 games. And it looks like to me they managed to do that okay.
Well, they don't slow down this week. I mean, they play South Warren tomorrow.
That's right.
Grayson County Franklin Simpson on the 27th, Grayson County on the 28th, and then Adair County on the 29th. Adair County, not historically a strong team, but they have been pretty good the last few years.
Historically not. And their best player is the Coomer kid that plays on the basketball team.
Yeah.
So he probably won't play. But anyway, tough schedule. Start off with a Barron.
Yeah, and in Glasgow, they also played a tough schedule.
Very
0-4, but
0-4, but they played Greenwood, South Warren, Franklin Simpson, and Taylor County. I mean, just
right.
and their pitching was really good last week too.
Yeah.
They didn't win a game, but they lost to Greenwood 2-0. They lost to South 5-0. Franklin 6-5, scored a little bit better, and lost to a good Taylor County team 4-1. They are only hitting 143 the first week, but they also faced good competition too. So, the good news with Glasgow is their pitching was obviously good. They were in every game and so forth. And oftentimes pitching is ahead of hitting this time of year. Just its timing and so forth. And you would think as the year goes on, your hitting will pick up a little bit. But from the pitching perspective, that's a good week for Glasgow. It just didn't get any wins.
Yeah, and then today they play over at Metcalfe County. Then they play at Greene County tomorrow. They're playing Logan County on Friday, which is going to be the opening of the new Richardson Stadium. They're going to have a ribbon cutting for it. So that's at 5:30 on Friday if anybody wants to go over there. So they're getting in 3 more games this week. And it looks like the weather's going to allow them to get their games in this week as well. I think we're going to have a little bump, but it's going to be maybe on Wednesday. So still looks like the game's going to be sandwiched around the little bit of weather we have coming through.
Yeah, should be a good week.
And then on the softball front, Barron County opened with South Warren, which might be the best team in the state.
Might be. I think they are the best team in the state.
Yeah, well, they certainly looked like it when they played Barron in that opener last week. That's
a tough opener. Got beat 18-1. I would not have wanted. I want to play South Warren.
Yeah, right.
Definitely want to play South Warren. I wouldn't be crazy about opening up with South Warren. But it is what it is, and that was not exactly the start that you want to a season. They came back later that week and shut out Grayson County 10-0.
Mm-hmm.
Can't give you any stats because it hadn't been even posted yet
right.
online, so I'm kind of waiting on that part. But, they went 1-1, which is probably what they expected to go 1-1 with South Warren. But, you obviously don't want to get beat 18-1 either.
They may have been a little bit shell-shocked in that South Warren game because I think they made 3 errors in the first inning, and that really kind of let South Warren get going. I mean, it's not like – that's the difference probably between 10-1 and 18-1 is because, I mean, that's how good South Warren is. I mean, everybody, they'd roll up there at the plate is hitting the ball to the fence. I mean, there are no weak spots anywhere on that team.
Got 2 good pitchers.
Yeah, and so, I think Katie Elmore had a hit against them in the first inning, so she got off to a good start. But then they just kind of struggled, especially once they got in a hole against them. And then, Glasgow basically playing with a middle school team. I think they have 3 players that are in high school that were on the field when I saw them play Friday.
Well, they're 0-2. They lost to Franklin 11-0 to start the year, and then they lost to Metcalfe 10-2. But, very, very young.
Yeah, and it's kind of been this –
they've been young for a while, So the key is you want these young players to improve, but also to improve enough to stay with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You don't want to always be 7th and 8th graders.
Right. I think Sidney Kuykendall's the only senior on the roster.
Yeah, you want those when those 7th and 8th graders are freshmen and sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
You want them to continue to play and then start mixing in, where you start having experienced players with some younger ones to go with it. And that's the key. But, their middle school players were really good in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough transition without help from older players just to go from primarily a successful middle school team and that same team playing high school.
Yeah.
You got to have help from some of the older ones.
Well, and like I said, it was kind of rough on them when I went to see them Friday over at Metcalfe County. I had not gotten a chance to see them yet. I'd seen Barron and I had not seen Glasgow's baseball team yet because they haven't played a home game.
And it's only the first week, too.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those, maybe as a fan, you can look at some of the situations and be a little bit discouraged because you're like, well this is kind of rough. But
it's too early.
Yeah, if it's as we talked about on here before about spring sports is you don't know anything about it until you're about 3 or 4 weeks into the season.
Generally after spring break.
Yeah. And so, we'll see how that goes out. And then the track season started. We'll get some reports on that stuff going. I think next Friday, both Barron County and maybe it's this Friday, Barron County and Barron County and Glasgow are competing at Lindsey Wilson. They have a big high school meet right before the spring break, usually for them, and so they're going to be running there on Friday. Usually, pretty good meet with a lot of good competition in it. We've got some outstanding runners coming up. I think both at Barron, obviously, and at Glasgow. So we'll see. We've had a great run here recently of track athletes at both schools.
Right.
So hopefully that continues. We're going to take a quick break here, and then when we come back, we'll close out the show. This is Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's of Glasgow.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Welcome back to the Brown Sports Bag, presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. Back on the spring sports train, so to speak. It's Major League Baseball season already. Are they starting earlier than usual? Is this a week early?
I don't know.
It's
actually already started. The Dodgers and Cubs played in Japan.
Oh, I forgot.
People forgot about that last week. And the Dodgers won 2. But everybody else.
I thought that was like the Hall of Fame game.
No, that actually counted. But the official start for everybody else is Thursday.
Yeah. So how are the Reds going to be this year?
I think they could be good. But I do. I mean, they've been sitting on this year.
Yeah.
I think they've gotten serious because they went out and hired a great manager, Terry Francona.
Yeah.
Great manager who's won with Cleveland last year, but obviously won a World Series with Boston.
Yeah.
He broke that long string for Boston.
Yeah, he was the architect of Boston's rebirth.
So he's in Cincinnati. I just think he's a great, great manager, and he's got young players too. And I think I think that ultimately may get them over the top more than anything. Of course, they got Matt McLean back, who missed all last year at second. They got De La Cruz at short. Their pitching actually last year was really good.
Yeah,
Hunter Green and so forth. They didn't hit very well last year, which is kind of the opposite. They just got to put it all together.
They've had these seasons that one year the pitching's good, the next year the hitting's good, just not both in the same season.
Knock on wood, they're in a very winnable division.
Yeah.
I think they have a shot to make the postseason. I really do.
So who are the favorites this year to win it? Is it the same Dodgers?
The Dodgers are overwhelming favorite.
Yeah.
Not only did they win it last year, they went out and got better.
Right.
I mean, they got more pitching. I mean, they got more pitching than anybody I've ever seen, to be honest with you. So they are the overwhelming favorite, but it's baseball, so anything can happen in baseball. The Yankees already lost their best pitcher.
Yeah.
Tore his elbow. He has to have Tommy John's, Garrett Cole. So that's a big loss. And plus they lost Juan Soto, their power hitter behind Judge, went to New York Mets. So
yeah.
So, that's a big hurt on them. So, it's, the Dodgers are the favorite. in the National League. I do think Philadelphia will be good. I think Cincinnati's on the rise.
Yeah.
The Mets got Soto, so you kind of think they're going to be a player too. In the American League, it's a good question in the American League. I think it's a little bit more murky in the American League.
Yeah. So nobody in the American League has loaded up.
Well, the Yankees tried. They went out.
Well, yeah, that's true.
They went out and got Max Fried from Atlanta.
Yeah, I was going to say that it looked like what the Dodgers are doing inspired the Yankees to try to get back on the
except
gravy
they
train.
lost Soto.
Yeah. They
got outbid on Soto. So the Yankees are the Yankees. They'll be there somewhere. Boston, I think, has got a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't know if I can just pick one out of that league per se.
Yeah.
I'm not real sure, but I am pretty sure in the American League, in the National League, it's going to be the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be Philadelphia. I think Atlanta, even though they lost the pitcher Max Fried, I still think they got players back last year. They were just decimated with injuries.
Right.
And I do think the Reds have a chance. I really believe that.
Mm-hmm. Well, quite a turnaround for the Reds versus the if you don't like us, bite us kind of response the owner and the managers had a few years ago. General manager had a few years ago.
Right.
That apparently they decided they were going to go ahead and try to put the eggs in the basket and see what happens.
Well, they're not big spenders. They really don't have a free agent that really has come in. They really didn't sign a major free agent, but they did sign a good manager, and they have signed some of their younger players to pretty good extensions on their contract. So there's something, but they really weren't. They could have used a big time player to come in who would have really helped them, but they didn't. So they're going to be young, but they got a chance.
They've chosen the other method of the Rays method of trying to build through their own organization and that kind of thing versus spending a bunch of money on the top end.
That's better than what they were doing.
which
the Pirates method, which was
absolutely nothing.
Which is draft and then lose them.
Draft, use them for trade bait, or let them get sold off.
So if you can go the Rays route, that's okay.
Yeah, but Terry Francona does make a huge difference in terms of.
I think he's a top 3 manager.
Yeah. I mean, he's proven everywhere he's been that he knows how to win.
Right.
And get things done. I was thinking about the college baseball season the other day, just because I was trying to watch a game, and it struck me that I don't know who the best teams are in college baseball at the moment, because I don't pay attention between the World Series and the start of the next year, and then I wake up and I'm like, oh, look, there's college baseball.
No, I don't either. In fact, I'll go to the Louisville games. I mean, I still go to their games, but I'm more probably in college more aware of the softball than baseball.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty exciting. Softball's pretty exciting, especially college softball. There are going to be 10 SEC teams this year that are going to be in the top 25 probably in college softball.
Well, Oklahoma and Texas came in, and they're top 2. I think they're 1 and 2 in the nation.
Yeah. So I mean, it's gonna be.
Oklahoma's won it last 4 years, and they're haven't lost this year. They're number 1. I think Texas is number 2.
Yeah. Kind of amazing. I mean, because then you already had on
top of Alabama and Florida and LSU, who are perennially powerhouses in the SEC. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, so if you do like college softball, the SEC is the game for you.
It means more, James.
It does.
That's their slogan. It just means more.
Well, but the other 2 programs that are the California programs, UCLA and those guys, are all in the Big Ten now, and I don't know how much it means in the Big Ten, but surely they're going to roll through the Big Ten in softball.
If they don't wear out on travel.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's true.
Same with Stanford in the ACC.
That's very true, yeah.
There's nothing like that Stanford-Syracuse matchup in softball.
Oh, yeah. And then there's, Rutgers and UCLA. I forgot Rutgers was even in there until.
Big Ten, yep.
Yeah, in the Big Ten until there was a basketball game. And
that's right.
Somebody else made the comment. I was listening to a thing, and they were like, "They played Rutgers in the Big Ten tournament." He goes, "Yeah."
Well, Cal comes to Louisville and plays them Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in baseball.
Wow, that's madness. Really, you going to go to that?
Probably will go Sunday.
Yeah.
Yep.
That'll be good. Is college baseball your favorite in-person sport?
No.
What's your favorite?
Absolutely not. No. I mean, it takes too long, but I'll go.
Yeah.
Basketball is my favorite in-person sport.
I see. Okay. All right. Well, it's Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's Glasgow, and we'll be back next week here on WCLU at 4 p.m.
You've been listening to the Brown Sports Bag on WCLU. Be sure to join James and John again next Monday at 4 for another edition of the Brown Sports Bag.